So we've set up a lot of threads, and hopefully you're starting to see how they all are converging into one reality. In this part, I want to take a look at Islam and see how they're going to play their part. Islam is over 1 billion people, and they were a thread that were created by the papacy, so there has to be a purpose and there will be an integration. And it's all very interesting. Now, just to preface, I reference a lot of this stuff in my part 21 of my End Time series on the role of Islam. I also talk about it in the episode 22, Dark to Light. So reference those because there's a lot of great detail on that. I'm going to take some of that stuff and talk about it here, but most of the detail is in those parts. Islam was created by the beast. Muhammad was propped up by the papacy, and he was surrounded by Catholics and Catholic converts. But it was created because the beast wanted an army in the Middle East to subjugate biblical Christians, to take Jerusalem for the Pope, and to basically conquer other things too, like Manichaeism, which was a competing religion at the time. It was very prevalent in that area. And so ultimately, Islam had a very important military purpose for the beast. Now, of course, Islam got out of hand, but nonetheless, there's a lot of Catholic influences on Muhammad that's documented. There's a lot of similarities between Catholicism and Islam. There is a great significance of Mary as an ecumenical point. A lot of Muslims recognize the demonic Fatima appearance as genuine. And we talk about that in a little more detail in episode 21. So if you're interested in more of that, then check it out. Now, I mentioned this guy named Tamim al-Dari, who was basically the one who authored End Times Islamic prophecy. Now, Tamim al-Dari is an important person to understand. He was a companion of Muhammad, an early convert from Christianity to Islam. Now, Christianity by that time, which was 660, 7th century, was not Christianity. It was Catholicism. Because the Pope came to power in 538 AD. By Justinian's decree, he was the corrector of heresies. He became the Grand Poobah. So 100 years later, when Muhammad was propped up, the papacy was well into effect. So we shouldn't say Christianity, we should say Catholicism. In Islamic eschatology, he is known for encountering al-Masih al-Dajjal during one of his journeys. Tamim's story has become the bedrock of various medieval narratives and legends, earning Tamim the title the Intrepid Traveler. So Tamim had a very supposedly supernatural experience where he encountered, the supposed Antichrist that's coming and created this whole false prophecy, which is very important. Now, that's important to understand because there are many similarities between Islamic eschatology and what's going on in the Middle East, what's going on with Christian Zionism. All these things are interwoven because, again, it's coming from the beast, the mother of harlots and the mother of abominations. All things will come to a head. There's something here I want to show you from Morals and Dogma. Let's see if I can find it. Okay, anyway, I messed up. That's going to be a little bit later. But I want to go through these articles that are going to show you how the beast is working multiple angles to integrate Islam. This is from 2019, Billy Graham on whether Jews and Muslims are saved because they believe in the God of Abraham. The question has come up often in my Bible Crossfire radio program. Will Jews and Muslims and those of other Christian religions be saved even though they don't believe in Jesus? Evidently, Billy Graham thought so. Notice these two quotes from him. Whether they come from the Muslim world or the Buddhist world or the Christian world or the non-believing world, they are members of the body of Christ because they've been called by God. Is that what the Bible says? They may not even know the name of Jesus, but they know in their hearts they need something that they don't have, and they turn to the only light that they have, and I think that they're saved. I think they're saved and they're going to be with us in heaven. Billy Graham, 33-degree Freemason and Protestant. I used to believe the pagans in far-off countries were lost, were going to go to hell if they did not have the gospel of Jesus Christ preached to them. I no longer believe that. I believe that there are other ways of recognizing the existence of God, through nature, for instance, and plenty of other opportunities, therefore, of saying yes to God, and that was in 1978. So Billy Graham, who was an agent of the beast, was very ecumenical towards Muslims. Billy Graham, Pope John Paul II, was the most influential voice in the last 100 years. Oh, goodness. Los Angeles, California, speaking on the April 2nd edition of CNN's Larry King Live program, of course, declaring to the world his allegiance, Dr. Billy Graham said that the Pope, John Paul II, was the most influential voice for morality and peace in the world in the last 100 years. Really, Billy Graham, a quote-unquote Protestant, telling you that the man of sin is the one that you should look towards for morality. This is Rick Warren building a bridge to Islam, Christians together. So we saw Billy Graham and what his allegiance was. Of course, he has to praise the beast. Now we're going to look at Rick Warren, who's another apostate prophet. As part of his peace plan, Rick Warren, pastor of Saddleback Church in Lake Forest, California, is partnering with Southern California mosques in the hopes of building bridges of understanding between Christians and Muslims. The outreach informed called King's Way is working to propose a set of theological principles, acknowledging that the two religions worship the same God. No, we do not, by any stretch of the imagination. Warren kicked off his King's Way program in December at a dinner hosted by Saddleback Church, attended by the congregation and some 300 Muslims. This is a while ago, and he's been very busy since then. And of course, Rick Warren also has things to say about the Pope. Booklet highlight Rick Warren's dangerous ecumenical pathway to Rome and how one interview revealed so much. This is from 2021. Let's see, what did the interview reveal? It reveals a lot if you know how to pay attention to these things. While Warren mentions Pope Francis several times throughout the interviews with EWTN host, he answers this question by directing attention to the Pope, stating, quote, "Well, the main thing is love always reaches people. Authenticity, humility. Pope Francis is the perfect example of this. He is a doing everything right. You see, people will listen to what we say if they like what they see. Lust of the eyes. People do not listen to what they say, to what you say, because the world is at constant odds with the gospel. And as our new Pope," now notice this sentence, "and as our new Pope, he was very, very symbolic in, his first Mass with people with AIDS, kissing of the deformed man, his loving the children. This authenticity, this humility, the caring for the poor, this is what the world expects us Christians to do. Us Christians, our new Pope. And when they go, oh, that's what a Christian does. In fact, there was a headline here in Orange County, and I love the headline. It said, if you love Pope Francis, you love Jesus. He was all about that. That was the headline. I showed it to a group of priests I was speaking to a while back. Emphasis added. So he's all about the Pope. If you love Jesus, you love the Pope, which is, of course, probably one of the most contradictory statements I could ever come up with. Of course, I didn't come up with it. It's right in front of you. But Rick Warren, who is doing ecumenical things with Muslims, is all about the Pope. Are you starting to see a pattern? This is from the Christian Post. Megachurch pastor Joel Osteen says Muslims attend his church and that his books sell a lot in Muslim countries. Evangelical Christian pastor, this is from 2015. Joel Osteen shared in an interview this week that a whole group of probably about 50 Muslims recently visited his non-denominational megachurch in Houston, Texas, and indicated that his inspirational messages on how to live a great life resonate with people in Muslim countries. That's right, because the Islam is the dark and this is the light, folks. It's primed and ready to take on this counterfeit stuff. I have Muslims that attend our church and my books sell a lot in Muslim countries as well, Osteen said during an interview with Jeremy Hobson for the Here and Now radio program published online Monday. So Muslims love Joel Osteen, and of course I've covered these things in those other episodes I told you about where Muslims are just all about his writings, and they say, well, if we just replace, Jesus with Allah, then these things are great, which just tells you everything. This is from Cron.com. And again, Osteen meets with Pope Francis at the Vatican. That's his reward for being a good little Jesuit spy. Osteen said Friday it was a great honor to represent the pastors of America in meeting with the pontiff. What did I tell you? The Reformation's over, folks. Whom he described as warm, personable, and full of joy. Marveling after the beast. I like the fact that this pope is trying to make the church larger, not smaller. He's not pushing people out, but making the church more inclusive. That resonated with me. Now, if you know anything about anything that the Bible says, that is a Fennec Fox moment, isn't it, my friends? Because the Bible says to be set apart, to be holy, to be in the world, but not of it. That the true church is much, much smaller than the counterfeit church. So anybody who's trying to make it bigger and more, watered down, that is the spirit of Antichrist in the definition of in place of Christ. So you should be aware of this. But Joel Osteen, who is very ecumenical with Muslims, does he fit the pattern of being all about the Pope and being rewarded by the Pope? Yes, he does. Consistent pattern here, folks. Pope and the Grand Imam, historic declaration of peace, freedom, and women's rights. This is from, what time? I don't know. It was recent. It was a couple years ago. A year ago. February 2019. This is the Imam. This was a big deal, and they're shaking hands. I've covered this quite a bit. Very ecumenical with one another. Here's another one. This is from, literally a couple months ago, as of the time of this video. 300,000 member Indian church to plant 40 more megachurches. What's their secret? I don't know. The false counterfeit spirit. I wrote a note to myself here that India is 14% Muslim. That is a lot of Muslims. India, Calvary Temple is India's largest church with more than 300,000 members. Do you understand how many people that is? That is enormous. Now it's on a mission to build 40 more mega churches in the next 10 years. Oh yeah, they have a mission. They have a mission to bring in everybody into this new thing in the Muslim world and in the pagan world. Of course, the Hindus are going to convert too. They're not immune. Judges for Zayed Award seeking concrete examples of fraternity. I covered this earlier. This is just one of these prizes and awards for fraternity and brotherly love that they're just constantly seducing people into and getting them to participate so that they can have ecumenical relations. Now, says Judge Muhammad Abdel Salam, the prize wants to become more solid to well-known, but already from the 40 nominations submitted in 2019, we have grown to over 100 nominations from the Muslim world to get this papal prize. This is how Egyptian Judge Muhammad Abdel Salam, Secretary General to the Zayed Prize for Human Fraternity, the first Arab and first Muslim to be awarded the papal knighthood. Keep that in mind. And to be present at a papal encyclical, the Fratelli Tutti recalled the impact of the historic document and the prize that followed have on today's world. So, how do they get you? Well, they get you either with seduction or with the light or the dark. Either they poison you or the dagger or the awards and seductions and flatteries. And in this case, with the Muslim world, they get them with this. In this particular case, it's all about seduction and flattery. You get these people awards, get them papal knighthood. Can you imagine 500 years ago such a thing? It's crazy. But of course, this is the sign that things have changed. Now, this is the Abrahamic family house. Of course, you should know about this from 2 years ago with their nice little dark to light symbolism here. And, these various buildings that supposedly are churches and mosques. Look at this. This looks so weird. It's all new agey. It's the new thing. And you got people from all kinds of faiths. A place for learning with occult symbolism and sacred geometry and all kinds of new age stuff. So that's been going on. That's another point of ecumenism. This is morals and dogma. And you should know that on page 11, there is a very important thing. Let's see if I can find it. Page 11. There's the black cube, by the way, which is important. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. But the black cube is a big deal for the Muslim. Here you go, page 11. Morals and Dogma, Albert Pike, 33-degree Freemason. and major occultists definitely worship the devil. Let's see what he says. The Holy Bible, square, and compass are not only styled the great lights in the masonry, but they also technically called the furniture of the lodge. And as you have seen, it is held that there is no lodge without them. This has sometimes been made a pretext for excluding Jews from our lodges because they cannot regard the New Testament as a holy book. The Bible is an indispensable part of the furniture of a Christian lodge, only because it is the sacred book of the Christian religion. The Hebrew Pentateuch is in the Hebrew lodge, and the Quran is in the Mohammedan one, belong on the altar. And one of these, and the square and compass, properly understood, are the great lights by which a Mason must walk and work. Well, it's not the Pentateuch. It's not the Bible. Which one is it? It's the Quran. Isn't that interesting? Of course, there's a lot to be learned about that. Okie dokie. Now, this is the Shriners International Organization. Shriners were formed in the late 1800s, but let's read about them. The emblem. They have the sword here with a scimitar and the symbol of, the star and the moon, the duality of male and female, dark to light, star and moon. All this stuff is just occult nonsense. The emblem on the front of the fez, the crescent, the scimitar, is an integral part of the fraternity's theme and representative of the characteristics embodied by the Shriners. The scimitar stands for the backbone of the fraternity, its members. The two claws are the Shriners' fraternity, its philanthropy. The Sphinx stands for the governing body of the Shriners. The five-pointed star represents the thousands of children helped by the philanthropy of each year. If you believe any of this stuff, then you need to learn a little more and perk up those ears. The emblem also bears the phrase Robur et Furor, which means strength and fury. Of course, not the way that they're telling you. Now, do you remember a very important quote by Albert Pike about Freemasonry? What did he tell you? Freemasonry uses symbols and deliberately deceives you, i.e., on the outside, exoteric versus esoteric, so that only those initiated can really relish in the truth of what these symbols mean. So, if you know that, and you know that the Shriners are an organization that's an honorary organization that only Freemasons can join at high levels, what does that mean? Put one and one together. What you get is what you see on the front are lies. That the actual symbology of this is very, very different. And of course, if you know about occult symbols, the star, five-pointed star, the moon, all these things are just occult things that they're using. It's an occult organization. Now, this is, we'll find out here in just a second. Okay, who are the Shriners? Let's see if I can position it here. The Shriners are an organization of the 32nd degree of the Yorkite Masons who are best known for their red fezzes, little motor cars, and circus parades. The Shrine is also known for its hospitals and other philanthropic activities. Masons call the Shrine the playground of Freemasonry. Most of the public is unaware of the fact that all the Shriners are master Masons. But not all Masons are Shriners. Excuse me. Like the previous Masonic degrees, candidates for the Shriners are initiated with a solemn religious ceremony at the local mosque, the Islamic gathering place of the Shrine. All candidates, including Christians, must swear an oath to Allah on the Quran, declaring that they would be worthy of having their eyeballs pierced to the center with a 3-inch blade, their feet flayed and forced to walk on the hot sands of sterile shores of the Red Sea, where the flaming sun shall strike them with a livid plague, rather than to violate their Shriner Masonic oath. So just in case you think that that is some conspiracy thing on some random forum, let's see where this is. This is The Deadly Deception by James D. Shaw, Freemasonry Exposed by one of its top leaders. And this is page 75. And we're going to read a little about this. See if I can get a better view. Okay, there we go. This is about an initiation ceremony spoken by somebody who was part of these things. We began the initiation about noon that Saturday. After the medical screening came the hazing, which was very childish. Some of it was not only childish, but downright vulgar. At one point, we were placed in a large mesh cage, and one of the Shriners climbed up on top of it. He exposed a very convincing rubber penis, which was connected to a water bag, concealed in his clothing, and hosed down all of us in the cage to the delighted howls of the spectators. After the haze, it was time for the serious part, the ritual, and time to take the oath. We took the obligation again with the terrible bloody consequence if we revealed any of the secrets. One form of mayhem we promised to a sect was to have our eyeballs pierced to the center with a sharp three-edged blade. And with the Quran on the altar, we sealed our solemn oath in the name of Allah, the God of Arab, Muslim, and Mohammedan, the God of our fathers. I had taken so many bloody oaths already, one for each degree, that I paid little attention to this one, except to notice that, like the rest of the ritual, featured desert settings, Arabs, and Allah, the Mohammedan God, who, by the way, is just Lucifer. I exposed that in my Part 21 episode of the End Time series. I was disappointed and a little offended at the childish and vulgar nature of the initiation, but not really surprised. This, after all, was the shrine, and fun was the Shriner's trademark. So, there you go, spoken from an ex-Freemason, the truth about what actually goes on in these places. This is, again, the Shriners, and you can see famous people. Notable American Shriners included Mel Blanc, John Wayne, Ernest Borgnine, and Roy Rogers, Supreme Court Justice Earl Warren, General Douglas MacArthur, and Presidents Gerald Ford and Harry Truman. We're going to come back to Harry Truman. Gosh, it all ties together. It's really quite something. Harry Truman and the whole Zionist thing that happened with World War II. But I want you to see all these common threads. So Shriners, what's the point with the Shriners? The Shriners are swearing their oath to Allah. And the Shriners are a secret society behind the scenes shifting politics. Now, this is from Heritage History. And it's a long article. I won't really quote too much of it, but it quotes these various secret societies within Islam. One of them is called the Fatimites, and I've talked about that in my Part 21 episode. The Druzes, the Assassins. There's various secret societies. The Muslims are not immune to these grand lodges and various orders. Of course, you have the Kaaba. We showed you that picture in Morals and Dogma of the black cube. I think he calls it the ashlar or whatever. The Kaaba is, just a pagan thing, folks. The Muslims they're just like the charismatics are swept up by the charismatic counterfeit spirit. The Kaaba is the people under a spell, and they're going around mindlessly around this pagan artifact. Of course, if you look up Black Cube Occult on Google, you can see, this stuff. Saturn worship, Satan. The Black Cube is associated to Saturn, who is, of course, another name for Satan, the god of many names, the god of this world, really. Now, this is going to be another thing. Let me just see here really quick. Yeah, okay. I thought I had a little part here. I have so much that I don't want to mess up my order here. Anyway, now we're shifting into pop culture. This is going to be fun. This is Andrew Tate, Candace Owens, and if you type up Christianity, there was an episode, I couldn't find it specifically, but there was an episode where she's like, "Oh, I'm so upset that you're not a Christian anymore. Like, you should come back. Like, we could really use you." Just so obvious dark to light stuff. And Andrew Tate has been in the news, especially with this whole Marmari thing that happened recently, if you know anything about that, with this particular quote-unquote bishop that was stabbed by this Muslim. And now it's all in the forefront. And it's all making this dialectic of left to right. This is, of course, another thing with Andrew Tate, a message to Andrew Tate, Marmari, Emmanuel. They're going back and forth. I mean, people look at this, 600,000 views. Just so much dialectics between this. It's getting people to talk about Islam and Christianity. And it's propping up specifically Andrew Tate. And you're going to see why Andrew Tate is very instrumental in this particular dialectic. Oh, okay, here's our friend Andrew Tate. Let's take a listen to what he has to say, because it's very interesting.
Finally, the Christians are angry.
Okay.
Finally, the Christians are angry. I don't know why it's taking you so long. Even as a Muslim, even as somebody who's recently reverted, it gives me genuine happiness to see the Christians finally angry about something.
Happiness.
You have gay preachers, LGBT drag story hours at your fucking churches. You sit around and turn the other cheek. You have no cheeks left to turn. There's nothing in this world without masculine rage. It's the bottom line of everything. There's no country without men who are prepared to get angry and defend it. There's no idea, there's no house, there's no religion without masculine rage. They've bred it out of you. And for the first time in a long time, we see Christians finally angry about something.
I forgive whoever has done this act.
Now, keep that on the back burner because that's going to come very relevant. So, Marmari got attacked. People are upset about Marmari getting attacked. And Andrew Tate is saying, gosh, I'm just so happy to see that Christians are finally angry. You need that masculine rage. And he's rallying people for this cause of getting zealous about your faith, folks. Because look at you. You have all these gay pastors. He's pointing to the low-hanging fruit of the liberal left, the progressive Christians, all the people that are going to get thrown under the bus by the new thing. And he's the one that seems to speak truth for the masculine guys who are following him. Even though he's Muslim, Christian guys follow him, and he's rallying people around this idea that you need to get angry. Come on, where's your machismo? Are you a man or what? Do you get the point? The devil is inciting you into the old thing, which is passion for nationalism and blind anger. Christ would never say such a thing. So you know that the spirit that speaks through Andrew Tate is the counterfeit spirit. It is the counterfeit spirit of uniting the world under Satan into one religio-political system. And it's going to get so obvious if you have discernment. It's already obvious, but it's going to get even more obvious. Now imagine when Andrew Tate converts to Christianity. That's going to be the thing. But anyway, we'll talk about that. Marmari, who is very questionable, he's very popular. He's been very popular. He's been platformed for some reason or another on YouTube, TikTok. Everybody's quoting his videos and his sermons. And everybody's all about Marmari, and then he got attacked by this guy, and now it's all in the news with Andrew Tate, and everybody's talking about this stuff. Marmari was kind of a nobody. And the question is, who is this Marmari? Well, there's a lot of videos exposing this Marmari is very strange, and we're going to watch them. This is a little bit from one by people basically exposing him, and this is a actual bishop from the Syrian Orthodox Church. And let's see what he says.
Refer to him as Bishop. This man, his name is, he calls himself Marmari, but his name is Robert Schliemann. He is not a member of the Assyrian Church of the East. He's never been member of the Assyrian Church of the East. We do not recognize his teachings. We completely forbid him from entering into any of our churches. He was ordained by the ancient Church of the East, by Metropolitan Mar Yaqub. Then he was defrogged. It means he was suspended from his church.
Whoops.
Now he doesn't belong to no church. It came to my attention, he used the word Holy Apostolic Catholic Assyrian Church of the East. Immediately when I saw that, we sent him a letter through our lawyers. We said, hey, be careful. You do not belong to this church. You cannot use this church. Now let's see what he's going to say here.
I just want to hold
Pay
the
attention.
baby Jesus in my arms. Because I want to pinch his fat thighs. You know the baby when he's so cute. Rah. Especially when they are a little bit fat so. Ooh. You have layers of layers of layers on their thighs and the arms here. I want to hold him as a baby because I will definitely make him cry by pinching him, kissing
definitely
him,
make him cry.
and spoiling him, and everything. Like, and then I can, if I go to hell after that, that's fine.
Did you catch that? if I go to hell after that, that's fine. I want to make him cry. I want to, that's a sermon that he gave, and these people are exposing it.
I carried him as a baby. La la. And then he would make a poo-poo, and then he would go up like that at me. It's okay. I'll wash. Man, if I could wash him. Oh.
He tried.
So they expose him, and good job on their part for exposing this man, because obviously he's got some very strange ideas. Now, if you have watched any of his videos, he teaches, futurist eschatology. That the beast is this, UN globalist system, and they're the dark. And of course, if you believe that, then you're going to be swept up into the coming thing, because the dark is going into the light. So he's obviously a false teacher. Now, who knows what the state of his heart actually is? Maybe he's just being very foolish. I don't know. But ultimately, there's some very dubious things. He claimed to be part of a church that he's not. He's been defrocked. He's kind of a lone agent. He has some very strange things that he said. He has some other sermons too I didn't pull up, but if I go to hell, it's okay. Or if I'm in hell with Jesus, then it's great. Like, just really weird things. And a lot of people are quoting this guy on TikTok. Again, that's another Fennec Fox moment. If you see that something is trending and popular, you should immediately have a Fennec Fox moment. Because if somebody is being platformed, that means it is by design. We are at the end, folks. Everything that's happening is choreographed. You have to understand there's nothing that gets platformed unless it's being choreographed. So very interesting that Marmari now goes through this experience with a Muslim, triggers all of this conversation against Muslims and Christianity. And Andrew Tate, who is a political force, is inciting Christians to be more masculine. Come on, guys. Come on. You got to fight back. You got to take control. You got to be dominionist. And of course, that's alongside what? Alongside the NAR, who's preaching all this dominionist 7 Mountain Mandate stuff too. Do you see where the devil is pushing you? It's all the same thing, folks. Wakely Church stabbing, the miracle that saved Bishop Marmari Emmanuel's life and kept his alleged attacker from killing him, was an act of God. Bishop Marmari Emmanuel's life was likely saved from death because alleged attacker's flicker knife failed to open properly during the stabbing, and the suspect cut his own finger off during the botched attack. Close friend Danny Abdullah spoke to the bishop as he recovered in hospital overnight, and Tuesday he revealed further details that had come to light. Mr. Abdullah, who became a public figure when 3 of his children and his niece were killed by a drunk and drugged driver, called the bishop's survival an act of God. Well, maybe, who knows, maybe it's a false sign and wonder designed to ecumenize with the Muslims and to make them question their faith and to see, what's going on? It's designed to bring this into the common consciousness, and obviously they're very successful at it. This is Marmari.
Looks like.
You see?
That's the 8th head, United Nations. Now I'm going to take it further. Look at that. That is around Tower of Babylon, and look at this. It's a round place where they gather and they have their assemblies. It's round. And look at the top, looks like a sky. See? And there is that golden sort of...
So, you know where this is going and what he's pointing you to. Is he pointing you to the beast of Revelation? The answer is no. He's not pointing you to the truth. He's pointing you to the thing that's going to be destroyed by the beast and integrated into its thing. Remember, the Vatican has an observer at the United Nations. What does that tell you? That means the Vatican's the one in control. So these things, when you see these popular teachers that are, teaching you false things, that means that they're being propped up. Somehow, somewhere, there's an agenda with these people. Now, who knows how it's going to play out with Andrew Tate? My guess is Andrew Tate is going to convert eventually. But here's another very important article. Famous atheist Richard Dawkins says he considers himself a cultural Christian, which, again, the timing of this is very interesting. This is very recent, right around the time that this Marmari thing happened, like a week or so before. What does Dawkins say? The one who is the poster child of atheism. The famous British atheist Richard Dawkins, author of the book The God Delusion, said in a recent interview that he identifies as a cultural Christian and prefers Christianity to Islam. Why single out Islam, I wonder? Although he clarified that he does not believe a single word of the Christian faith, which, of course, if you remember, what does the Bible tell you about Revelation 13 and the mark of the beast? Well, there's going to be people who take the mark on their hand, and they're just going to go along with their actions. Richard Dawkins will be one of them. He loves all the cathedrals and the Christmas carols, but he doesn't believe a single word of the Bible. That tells you everything, folks. And he compares it to Islam, which, again, why is that being highlighted in proximity of this Marmari thing? Why is Andrew Tate being highlighted with an interview with Candace Owens, or, to do basically, hey, you should come back to Christianity. We really could use you. Now he's commenting on how Christians should be upset and all these things. Like, what is going on here? Well, you have a lot of things going on. As usual, the beast is very busy. So let's put it together. The beast created Islam for its purposes a very long time ago. Islam got out of control. That led to the Crusades, which led to a pretty significant division between Christendom and the caliphates. The Ottoman Empire eventually collapsed under its own, weight and was judged. And that was in the late 19th century. And ever since then, since the 1900s, Islam and the Catholic Church have been slowly warming up to each other. In the last 100 years, you had several important things. You had the diplomacy of the popes, which you can see very clearly through Pope Francis. You had the Abrahamic family house. You had papal knighthood and honors done for these people, the climate change, fraternity, peace. All these things are now happening very quickly and building the momentum much faster. You had Jesuit Protestant operatives like Rick Warren, Joel Osteen, Billy Graham, softening Protestants up through ecumenical things, as you saw clearly, towards Muslims and encouraging cross-pollination. You also had pop culture influencers like Andrew Tate, Candace Owens, this whole thing with recent Marmari thing, increasingly putting conflict and attention on the Christian-Islam dialogue. The recent Marmari example really just is a dialectic to get you to put Christianity versus Islam in the forefront. Andrew Tate is used to rally support for the macho men and to get you to act in a certain way. Look, if you're Christian, you gotta militarily take over and, basically get rid of these liberals, which of course is what? It's inviting you and inciting you. It's tempting you. It's the devil tempting you with anger to abandon the narrow road and destroy the left, and then you'll be a true Christian. It's picking on the low-hanging fruit too, because obviously the liberals and the communists are being revealed to you as the enemy. Both Marmari and Andrew Tate are pointing you to the wrong enemy. Do you get the point? And yet Marmari and Andrew Tate seems like they're kind of against each other. Andrew Tate's the angry guy. Marmari's the love. No, I forgive the enemy. And it's just this dialogue, but they're both pointing you in the wrong direction. Marmari thinks that the beast is the communist empire, the world, the United Nations. And Andrew Tate, same thing. He's pointing you to the liberal left, but the liberal left is not the enemy, folks. It's the guys who are coming to rescue you from the liberal left that is the real enemy. Right now, all of this stuff is at a critical point. Tate will convert and be instrumental in shaping culture. You can bet on it. He's not going to remain Muslim. He will come back to Christianity, but they're going to wait for him to do that when it's reaching a critical point. He's very overtly aggressive, and he's going to be used. Imagine now, just put yourself, we're going to talk about this more in the future, but imagine a couple years in the future, Christian nationalist system, and Andrew Tate is now, instead of picking on the liberals and the people with the rainbow flags and rainbow pastors, he's picking on the Sabbath-keeping Christians. on the people who are insisting to be set apart. Imagine the same Instagram video, TikTok, whatever, and him just cussing out Christians who are keeping the Sabbath. You know, you're Judaizing. Look at you. You guys, you're just too weak to convert and trying to do your own thing and just being rebels. You need to be exterminated. Imagine that. Not far from the truth, folks. And that's the angle that Andrew Tate will play. He will be a rallier of the troops. He'll be a militant, you know, he'll be part of the military aspect of it. But he's not yet flipped from dark to light. They're waiting because he brings a lot of momentum with him. So the timing has to be right for him to convert. But they're building. You see, these things are building. You also have the angle of the charismatic system with the mega churches that I cited in India that are spreading. India is 40% Muslim, and it has obviously a huge pagan population. And that model of the mega church is setting the stage for the charismatic revival and the supernatural signs and wonders that will convert people en masse to this counterfeit spirit. Remember, the pagans are pagan. They're easy to convert. If you show them a false miracle, they'll immediately convert. They have no discernment whatsoever. Because, again, this is not going by the gospel, it's going by false signs and wonders. And it's appealing to their flesh and the lust of the eyes. The pagans will convert very easily. And the mega churches who are doing all this charismatic stuff will accomplish that purpose. And it will suck in both the pagans and the Muslims. And by default, through osmosis, other things will follow. So you had those three movements. You had the ecumenism through the Vatican and all these Jesuit infiltrators. You have pop culture. And you have the megachurch system going out into various nations. A lot of avenues, as usual. Now, another important thing is that the Muslims' eschatology intertwines them with the third temple. And also the beast's false prophecy, the dispensationalist prophecy. Islam has many similarities with Catholicism, which I cover in my episode 21 of End Time series. And many fronts are being run right now. Mary, ecumenism, culture, the charismatic stuff, all those are being run simultaneously. There's many connections between Islam and the occult and secret societies. It's all one religion. Remember, the Masons, what do the Masons do? Well, the Masons, what is it? They swear an oath to Allah if you're a Shriner. Albert Pike was, saying that the Quran is the guiding light of Freemasonry. Allah is actually really Lucifer, if you look into it, which we do. There's a lot of secret societies in Islam. Islam was created by the Catholic Church. I mean, put one and one together, it's not a stretch of the imagination. Islam is the dark. Catholicism is the light. Just like communism is the dark and Catholicism is the light. It's all about pointing to the false light. And soon, all these people will be converted. So, that brings us to Zionism and the Third Temple, which ties it all together.